I will call the April 9th Licensing Hearings and Public Safety Committee to order. Roll call, Alder Perella.
Here.
Alder Heidemann.
Here.
Alder Russ is here. Alder Pearson's excused and Alder LaFave is unexcused. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. We all basically know each other, right? Yeah, you're good? All right. All right. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the March 26th meeting.
I make a motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, those are approved. All right, item number 6, RO number 127-24-25 by Police Chief Kurt Zempel pursuant to section 30-50 of the municipal code, submitting the annual report for the police department for the year 2024. Assistant Chief.
So the chief unfortunately had to be out of town for a meeting today. Neither he or I have ever had to present this annual report in the past. I'm told you all have copies of it.
Yes.
I'm happy to answer questions or to hit highlights. Do you guys have a preference?
You want to start with highlights?
Sure. So just scanning through our annual report, a couple of things, and feel free to jump in with questions if you have them while I'm speaking. But one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention is that the chief doesn't intend to change the vision of the police department. We think it's a good fit for us to be the safest community of its size in the United States. It's a good vision. We don't intend to make any changes with that. There's going to be an effort underway to examine our mission and values to see if they need updating. And so the initial mission and values probably would have been in place, I'm going to say late 2010 or in 2011. So here we are a decade and a half later, and we have a lot of different people working by us. So the chief would like to revisit that and see if there's some updates or some changes, additions that are needed. So that's going to be an effort that's going to be taking place in the future. In 2023, we experienced really two major changes probably to our table, or 2024, two major changes to our table of organization. One was the creation of the administrative lieutenant's position. That has not been filled until recently. So Andy Cunninger is our administrative lieutenant. So Andy's going to oversee a couple different things for us. Obviously, the administrative division. He reports to me. He's going to be helping with the hiring process. He'll be in charge of training, both for new officers and for specialized and in-service training for the officers that are already working at the police department. He'll be helping with our facilities management and a whole host of other things. And one of the things that we would like to potentially consider in the future, once we get our feet underneath us, since we've had so much change in movement already this year, is considering and looking into whether or not accreditation is appropriate for us. And so we were accredited 20 years ago, but that has been lapsed for about 15 years. So an accreditation, if you're not familiar with it, is basically it's a process that you go to and manage over a 3-year period or 4-year period, depending on how you choose to do it, in order to update and improve your policies. So the second big change for us is the victim services coordinator. So hopefully maybe at some point you've gotten to meet Britta West. Britta was hired and came over from Safe Harbor. She was previously an advocate and worked in a couple of other different, I guess, service positions, helping people, right? And so Chief Domogalski really wanted to help the department become even more victim-centered than what we already are. And so one of the ways that we can do that is to have an advocate who works in our building, who gets to help the people who aren't necessarily involved in the court system, right? And so if you're involved in a situation where somebody's get arrested, that triggers some involvement either through local advocacy or through victim witness from the county. But what if there isn't an arrest and there isn't an offendant, right? We can still help those people too. So she's been a great asset. She started in October of 2023, but in the first fiscal year of that award, she was able to serve 231 victims. And so she's been a great asset. She's a great fit. And Matter of fact, I believe Friday she's got an event at the library. I think it's Color for Change, if I remember right. But one of the other things that we have worked on, we're partnering with Elevate. So we have our crisis workers working right in the building now. I think there's 4 of them. Usually 1 or 2 are in during the daytime and the early nighttime hours as well. That's been a great partnership. I think the officers really appreciate having them there. Just like advocates, police officers do police officer things, right? But then there's the other part of dealing with people, right? And so we're not necessarily trained medical health professionals, right? That's not what we do. So some of us can be at times uncomfortable with that. So it's great to have them along. One of the big things that came from that partnership really is that we reduced Chapter 51s from 110 involuntary commitments in 2023 to only 51 in 2024. And we see that as a huge success, not only for those people directly affected by it, but also for the taxpayers as well, who often have to foot the bill, for that hospitalization. Moving on to our reporting of force, you certainly have the numbers in front of you. We had 2 deadly force incidents last year, 2 officer-involved shootings. That's rare for us. So I've been with the department for about 28 years. We normally see an event like that about once in every 5 years. Generally speaking, to have 2 a couple months apart is highly unusual. But I think both were handled well by other agencies, and the officers involved have all recovered well and are back working. So that's another big success for us. So,
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Where it says display firearm, that is where the police displayed their firearm, or we found a firearm on somebody.
So anytime a police officer draws their weapon and points it at somebody, we report that as a use.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So it actually happens quite often.
Well, it was big in 2020, and then it kind of came down in 2024, which is good to see. So,
as far as hiring, so in 2023, we saw 14 people leave our department, 14 officers. We saw 14 leave again in 2024. We're probably going to see maybe up to 10 leave this year as well. So as you can see from the report, last year we hired 14 officers. There were a couple lateral positions. 1 come from Milwaukee, 1 from the county, and 1 came from a department in South Dakota. The rest are all new hires. Many of them had to go through certification training. I think we sent at least 7 to school last year. So that's a pretty big thing for our department. We currently have 6 at school. And so.
Do they have to, when we do that, do they sign a contract to say they are in Sheboygan Police Department for X amount of years after training, or no?
We don't.
Okay.
We don't. So we also hired 2 brand new CSOs. 1 who yesterday received a conditional offer to be a patrol officer from our department. So that continues to be a successful exercise for us. I think over the years, we've hired no less than 6, 7, 8 of our CSOs to become officers with our department. After we just promoted 1 of them to sergeant. So we also hired a background investigator. So we have permission from the city to use unused funds from the salaries accounts. We hired back retired Detective Eric Edson, who's helping with our backgrounds. And seeing as how we are currently at 6 detectives and not at 7, to be relieved of that additional responsibility on top of everything else that they're trying to accomplish has really been helpful for us. And because Eric doesn't have other commitments, he can turn over the backgrounds a lot faster. And in this day and age, the way that hiring is when you have a mechanic, you need to hire them like right now. We can't wait or let them sit on a list for a year because somebody else will offer them a position and they'll go elsewhere. So I just wanted to point out that training and education remain a priority for us. 2024, 81 officers received over 9,000 hours of training. We also had 19 non-sworn support staff members that received almost 300 hours of training. And so training and education continue to be something that the administration of the department pushes And with Andy's help, we hope to eventually develop a training matrix as a guide for officers to start brand new in their career and then move up, become detectives or supervisors and maybe administrators someday. And so with that said, we just had two, Officer Becker and Officer Tempest, that just finished their master's degrees. And both are relatively new in the department, probably under 5 years, and hopefully going to be with us for a long period of time. Lieutenant Yeager just finished his bachelor's degree, and Sergeant Wilson is actually working on his, and I'm sure there's more that I probably don't even know about, but we continue to try and incentivize and push education as a way to make the department better. Also in 2024, we had two of our supervisors graduate from what we call long courses. There's a couple that we sample. I'm a graduate of the FBI National Academy. The chief is a graduate of the Southern Police Institute. This past year, Joel Hendricksey, who's just promoted to lieutenant, graduated from the National Academy as well. And Captain Mike Stelter graduated from the Wisconsin Command College and is now a certified public manager through the UW system. One of the other things to just highlight is our continued push to do other stuff and communicate and interact with the public outside of normal law enforcement functions. So you can see from the report that we're very, very pro events, right? And so Hop of the Cop, Junior Police Academy, Walk for Unity and the Community Barbecue, Cops and Bobbers, Blue Santa, all that stuff is going to continue under this new administration. And we would actually like to kind of double down on some of it. The chief wants to accomplish more Bravo to Cops this year. So, and always just really looking for ways to interact with the public to create legitimacy and trust with the public, with our organization. And so to address crime, violent crime was up about 34% in 2024. Most of this is going to be in the area of aggravated assaults. And so the explanation for why that is because interpersonal and domestic related issues are the hardest for outside forces to really, really work on or make improvements on, right? Like people have issues and people have problems and we can't always make those go away. And so really our ag assaults are really associated with that. A couple of other things though, reporting requirements have changed for us in the last decade. So I would tell you that I believe crime's getting reported to the federal government more consistently and accurately than probably when I first started. So that's actually a good thing, but it can also drive up the numbers a little bit because they classified things a little bit different than the way they used to be classified for the incident-based reporting. And one of the other big changes I would tell you is that this is a huge change that our department went through to become more victim focused in our investigation instead of just focusing on arrests and offenders, is that we actually pursue residual charges. And so when we investigate a domestic or interpersonal relationship violence, so one of the questions we ask is beyond what happened today, right? What else has happened in the past that you haven't told us about yet? What else should we be concerned about? And because of that, potentially the amount of criminal charges associated with arrest might go from 1 to 3, right? Because there could have been, or usually is other events that they end up reporting. So, on the other hand, nonviolent crime is slowly on the way down and at least steady, but tipping down the scale just very slightly. One of the examples that I can give you that we've really been able to be successful is targeting, prolific offenders who are responsible for burglaries, right? And so in 2024, we had 42 burglaries, and we've been under 100 burglaries for 5 years. And when I first started here, we would handle hundreds a year, several hundreds of burglaries a year. So we have clearly found the right people and have sent the message that we're not going to tolerate it here in the community. So some of the crime that we have been able to affect to our strategies is actually working. We're super excited about that. So, and then the last point I would just make is that traffic accidents really remain fairly steady. There's a little up and down over the last 5 years, but a lot of that's going to depend on weather. And so when we get icy Januaries, and especially when we get early snowfalls, we see days where we can have more accidents than normal. I don't know what the normal number is, but it's a couple a day probably. Whereas if we get a November, or December slippery, icy road day, we can maybe have 30, right? And that can really drive up the numbers. And then a lot of that is also related to construction zones. And so Taylor Drive for a long time was the area where we had a lot, and they're also very, very hard to regulate. The signage is changing as the work changes. They're usually one lane. There's no place to pull anybody over or to sit and observe traffic in a lot of those. So that continues to be, an area of interest as part of our strategy, but where we're deploying people. And so where we're deploying people is where it can make the most difference and where they can be visible. And so you'll see our traffic, we call them HVEs, high visibility enforcement patrols, where officers dedicate time or supervisors dedicate their time for them to being where we can make the biggest impact. And so it wouldn't surprise you that most of the places where a lot of our accidents happen are either in the construction zones or the major intersections of the city, right? Because that's where the most traffic is. And because it's getting the most volume, two things. One, they have the most crashes, but it's also easy to go there to enforce them because they're predictable. And then when we are running traffic in the predictable areas where it's visible to the public, right, we get the deterrence effect from it as well. So.
As far as the accidents are concerned, what percentage of them have to do with people on cell phones?
I don't think we track data.
You don't?
Like that, Joe, no.
I see a lot of people on cell phones and they drive for crap.
Yeah, cell phones are really an interesting thing. I mean, so there's a law that says you can't compose a text message while driving, right? That doesn't stop you from viewing, FaceTiming.
Mapping.
It used to be illegal for you to have any type of a television screen or device in front of you. Now, even I have a phone charger up on my dash, right?
So it wouldn't be a situation where there was an accident and all of a sudden the officer says, "Hey, let me see your cell phone. Were you just on there?" You
So
can't do that?
Yeah, they wouldn't have the authority to inspect that phone.
That's too bad. Huh. I have another question too.
Yep.
On the drug arrests and the community of Sheboygan compared to Manitowoc and other communities that are size around us, are we right in the middle as far as that's concerned? Because, we're on that highway that goes from Chicago to Green Bay or whatever. As far as the impact of that on the city of Sheboygan, I thought we're in a pretty good spot, pretty good place, but I didn't know how we compared to other communities that have to deal with the very same thing.
So I don't know exactly how we compare it to a Manitowoc, other than anecdotally from my own experience.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work with the Manitowoc County Drug Unit, and our drug unit are in a partnership. So I would think we're fairly similar in environments back and forth. Yeah, so drugs follow the highway, right?
Right.
And so we don't interact as much with the Fond du Lac County people because they have a different highway system. So they probably interact with the counties to the north and south of them more. We do a little bit with Ozaki. We do a lot with Manitowoc and also Brown County people as well.
Oh.
When it comes to the drug issues, I don't think we're any worse or any better than everybody else. I think everybody is dealing with the same problems. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Crowley?
please.
Yep.
Just a couple of questions. One is about, so the 34% increase assault, of course, you have nothing to do with that, but responding. But is there any best practice to address that type of issue? Just the same as, for example, with the correspondent program you have, you adopted a new approach, right, to the issue of, for example, mental, responding to people that perhaps have mental issues. And so is there any way, is there a different approach that you could adopt? I mean, is there a high level type of approach that you could, that you have been considering or
Yeah, so we've actually made a lot of changes in those areas in the last 14 years is what I would tell you. And I would say that we're a leader in the state in a lot of different ways in responding to crime differently, right? And so we just opened up our own child advocacy center, right? That wasn't a thing 10 years ago, and it wasn't its own building until 5 years ago. And so with a lot of, I think, community and stakeholder support, we've been able to accomplish that. In 2014, we trained the entire department on how to conduct investigations in a victim-centered way. That was done by a group of people who eventually formed the domestic abuse response team and still work and meet together today. The goal of that training was to get better outcomes from the court system, right? And so not every domestic abuse situation needs to end in incarceration because that has some negative effects for families as well too. But collecting the right information, asking the right questions in the right way, and then also offering the right amount of services. So I said something earlier, but police officers can't be everything to everybody all the time. But if we have other resources in the community that can assist people, we can direct them to them or involve them. And that's something that we've been able to increase in the last decade a lot, right? And so not only just that, but partnering with other people in the community. We're very involved with Safe Harbor. Several of our administrators were at their event on Saturday night to continue to work together. And that initial effort actually did partially lead to the creation of the sexual assault response team. And now we have a human trafficking response team as well. So all those collaborative community response groups have really changed our environment. And in many ways, I think are really role models for other places in the state. And so why is it so hard to affect that type of crime? Alcohol, drug usage, mental health issues, also just family history, right? And I think the other part of it too is that we really live in a mobile society compared to when I grew up here in Sheboygan County. People are coming and going all the time, and community standards in other places just aren't like ours, right? And so I think that really does affect our abilities because it's a social issue more than it is a crime issue.
And that victim, the VS, the victim services, how does that intersect with, is that what the service, because for me, it's a little vague what they do as victim services. So is that where the victim service program comes into play?
Yeah, so the victim service coordinator, they're different than our other advocates in the community because they don't fall under the state law that allows them privilege. And so they can't be the type of advocate that can be a shoulder to cry on necessarily.
They can or they cannot?
Well, they can't, because if they start to disclose anything about the incident they become involved in, she won't have privilege under the law. That's different for advocates who aren't on the programmatic side or that are on the programmatic side and not the systematic side. So the advocates that work in our domestic abuse shelter can have people share information with them and then have it protected by privilege. Britta does not share that same privilege. She would potentially have to be a witness and divulge in testimony. So we don't use her in the same way that the other community advocates are used. What we do use her for is to coordinate with our other stakeholders. And so she sits on those CCRs that I was just talking about, but she's also the person that knows the most about what resources are available in town. It's as simple as we had an incident where there was some damage to some child seats, right? And so she found a group in town that could replace child seats for this family. Sometimes it's clothing, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's legal services. It's just going to depend, but she's basically the hub, right? And one of the things that we also use her for is when we're dealing with a victim, probably of a fairly traumatic crime. She's a very, very empathetic person. And the problem with it is let's say somebody is killed, right? And so there's families that are hurting, right? but there's also work to be done. And the detectives don't have time to be with the families because they have to do the work. But now we can bring in Britta to be with the families and to help them coordinate the after response from the family as well. So she's been a great asset. So we hired a great person.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Comments? All right, thank you so much. A lot of great information. I'm looking to file.
Move to file.
Is this being filed?
Yes.
Okay,
Second,
all right, all in favor?
aye.
Chair votes aye, that's approved. All righty, item number 7, RO number 126-24-25 by St. Clerk submitting various license applications.
Alrighty, so we've got 4 license applications on this RO. The first one is for Brennan's on Michigan. They've requested a temporary change of premise. They do this several times a year. They just extend the premise out to their parking lot. As far as I'm aware, I've had no issues. I think this one's for the Kentucky Derby. So I recommend, staff recommends granting that one. For the Craft 30 change of premise application, this change of premise is in conjunction with a special events permit that they've started. So that's why I'm recommending to grant it contingent to the completion of that special event permit. Make sure they've got all of their ducks in a row that way. There is a Class B liquor license application. There's no issues with that application. It's for the Seagull Tap LLC. They'll be taking over the 4th Street Tap. So we're recommending granting that license. The final license is a Class B reserve liquor license. That's for the new place that'll be going in called Cajun Fusion. We're recommending holding that one because we don't have all of the necessary information that we need yet. We're waiting for some police background checks. The business is also not in good status on the Department of Financial Institutions, which you have to be in order to have a business set up and doing business in Wisconsin. So holding that being said, this is the last LHPS committee meeting of this council year. So when we want to hold something for the next council year, instead of saying holding it, we'll be recommending referring it, this license application to the new LHPS committee for the next upcoming year.
Any questions?
Then we have 2 motions, 2 separate motions.
Just make a motion with staff recommendations.
I make a motion to approve with staff's recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that's approved. Alrighty, next meeting date to be determined. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn Synodi.
Aye.
All
I
right,
make a motion, Cindy, dear.
again, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yay, that's approved. We will meet again next council year. Thank you, everybody.